I funded my ex's startup, quit my dream job for him, and went into massive debt, only for him to dump me and propose to another woman. I used to believe that love was about sacrifice. When I met Liam, I thought I had found the kind of love that only exists in movies, the us against the world kind. The kind where you give everything because you believe in someone, because you know deep down that they would do the same for you. I was wrong. Liam was a dreamer. When we met, he had nothing but a fire in his eyes and a head full of ideas. He wanted to build something great, to create a startup that would change the world. I was mesmerized by his passion, his confidence. He spoke about the future like it was already written, like success was inevitable. "We're going to make it, Kate," he told me one night, lying on my tiny apartment floor, drawing sketches of business plans on scrap papers. "You and me, babe. We're going to be unstoppable." I smiled, believing every word. At the time, I had a stable job. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, and I had a modest amount of savings. Liam, on the other hand, was constantly broke. He worked odd jobs that he always ended up quitting, claiming they were beneath him. "I can't waste my time flipping burgers, Kate. I need to focus on the business." So I did what I thought any good partner would do. I supported him. I covered rent. I paid for groceries. When his car broke down, I emptied my emergency fund to fix it, because he needed to drive to meetings. Every time I handed over my credit card, I told myself it was an investment in our future, in his future. In our future. I ignored the first warning sign. He never said thank you. The first time he asked me for financial help, he was hesitant, almost embarrassed. "Just this once, babe, I promise. Once the company takes off, you won't have to work a day in your life." It was never just once. Slowly, my life started revolving around his dream. I started working extra shifts to make up for the money I was spending on us. I stopped going out with friends because we needed to save. When my mom asked why Liam never seemed to contribute, I snapped at her. "You don't understand, Mom. He's building something huge. I believe in him." She sighed, shaking her head. "Then I hope one day he believes in you just as much." I wish I had listened to her. The first time I truly felt something shift was when I overheard Liam on the phone with one of his potential investors. "No, I'm not married. I mean, yeah, I have a girlfriend, but she's not involved in the business or anything." "Not involved?" I confronted him that night. He laughed it off. "Babe, come on. These investors take men more seriously when they think they're completely dedicated. They don't want to hear about girlfriends or distractions. It's just business." Distraction. That word stung. I let it go. I told myself that he was just saying what he had to in order to secure funding. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The moment that sealed my fate came 6 months later. Liam had finally found an investor willing to take a chance on him, but he needed more capital to match the funds. The bank wouldn't lend to him without collateral. He looked at me with those desperate, pleading eyes. "Babe, I just need you to take out the loan in your name. It's temporary. I swear on my life, once the company takes off, we'll pay it back in a year. 2, max." I hesitated. This was my entire future. But then he kissed my forehead and whispered, "I need you, Kate. No one else believes in me like you do." So I did it. I signed the papers. $100,000. In that moment, I didn't realize that I had just signed away not just my savings, my security, but my entire existence. Liam's company started gaining traction. Investors became interested. He was invited to networking events, industry panels. He started wearing tailored suits instead of his usual jeans and hoodies. He began talking differently, standing taller. I was so happy for him. "We did it, babe," I told him one night as I cooked dinner, excited about the future we had dreamed of. He barely looked up from his phone. "Yeah. Hey, don't wait up for me tonight. I have a dinner with some investors." Something in my stomach twisted. "Oh, can I come? I'd love to meet them." For the first time, he hesitated before answering. "It's kind of a high-level thing. You wouldn't really get it." I laughed nervously. "Liam, I've been there since day one. I helped you build this." He kissed my forehead absent-mindedly, already distracted by his phone. "I know, babe. That's why I love you. But this is my thing, okay? Just trust me." For the first time since we started, I felt it. A small, quiet voice in the back of my mind. Something is wrong. But I ignored it. I didn't realize that I was no longer part of his future. I had given up everything for him, and soon, he was going to show me exactly what I meant to him. Nothing. It started with small things. Liam became busier. The man who used to spend nights dreaming with me on my apartment floor now barely looked up from his phone. Meetings ran late, dinners got canceled, his replies to my texts became shorter. Sometimes just a single word. Busy. Later. Can't talk. I told myself it was normal. His business was growing, and I should be happy for him. This was what we had worked for. But the changes weren't just about time. It was the way he spoke to me, the way he carried himself. You wouldn't understand, babe. This is complicated business stuff. You don't need to worry about these things. The first time he said that, I laughed nervously. Liam, I've been with you since day one. I know more about this business than half of your employees. He didn't even look up from his laptop. That's cute, Kate. I swallowed the hurt. Maybe I was just overthinking things. One evening, Liam mentioned a gala dinner for tech entrepreneurs and investors. That sounds amazing, I said, smiling. When is it? I'll need to find a dress. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his face. Oh, yeah, about that. He rubbed the back of his neck. It's more of a corporate event, super formal. I don't think they're doing plus ones. But you're the CEO, can't you bring whoever you want? He sighed like I was exhausting him. Kate, it's not a big deal. It's work. I felt embarrassed for even asking. That night, I scrolled through my phone, waiting for him to text me after the event. He didn't. Instead, I saw a photo on Instagram. Liam, standing in the middle of a glamorous crowd, his arm resting casually on the back of a woman's chair. She was stunning, elegant, the kind of woman who looked like she belonged in his world. My world had no place in his anymore. I started noticing things I couldn't ignore. He began correcting the way I spoke in front of his colleagues, like I was embarrassing him. He stopped holding my hand in public. He forgot our anniversary. Not even an apology, just a casual, "Oh, I was busy. We'll celebrate later." We never did. One night, he came home late, smelling like expensive perfume. "You reek of alcohol," I said quietly, watching him loosen his tie. "Had a meeting," he muttered. "With who?" "Kate, stop acting like a jealous wife. Jesus." I felt my stomach drop. Jealous wife? Since when was I that? I ignored it. I swallowed the doubt, the humiliation, until one night I saw it with my own eyes. I was out with a friend, trying to distract myself, when I saw Liam, across the restaurant, sitting at a dimly lit table, with her. She was laughing, leaning into him, her manicured hand resting lightly on his wrist. He was looking at her the way he used to look at me. I felt frozen in place. My heart pounded so loudly I couldn't hear my friend calling my name. Then I saw it, the way his hand slid to her thigh. That was it. That was all I needed. I waited until he got home. "How was your night?" My voice was steady, but inside I was breaking. He barely looked at me. "Fine, just work stuff." "Really? Because I saw you at LaRue." That got his attention. He turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "You were spying on me?" "Spying?" I let out a hollow laugh. "You were out in the open, Liam, with another woman, and you touched her." I saw it. For a moment he said nothing, then he exhaled, rubbing his face. "Kate, listen. You and we've been drifting apart. You have to admit that." I felt like I had been slapped. Drifting apart? It's just, we're in different places now. My life has changed, Kate. I need someone who understands that. I was shaking. "I quit my job for you. I took out a loan for you. I paid for our home, our food, your goddamn suits. How much more understanding do you need?" He ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "See? This is what I mean. You're so emotional. That's why you don't fit in my world anymore." I wanted to scream, to throw something, but instead I whispered, "You promised me forever." He didn't flinch. People change. Tears blurred my vision. "So, what happens now?" He sighed, looking almost bored. "I think we should take a break. A break. After everything. After years of sacrifice, of loyalty, of believing in him, he wanted a break." "Liam, please." He held up a hand. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Something inside me shattered. This wasn't a break. This was him throwing me away. The next morning, I woke up to find his side of the closet empty. He had moved out overnight. No goodbye, no explanation, just a text message. "It's for the best. Take care of yourself, Kate." And that was it. No apology, no closure, just silence. I sat on the bed staring at my phone, feeling nothing. Not sadness, not rage, just emptiness. Then a few days later, the real nightmare began. After Liam moved out, I expected closure, some kind of explanation, maybe a long text message or a late-night call where he'd confess that he made a mistake. But there was nothing. No calls, no texts, no apology. I told myself that maybe he just needed space, that he would come back when he realized how much I had sacrificed for him. Then I checked his social media. His life went on like I never existed. Photos of him at luxurious events, smiling, confident, surrounded by powerful people. And her, the woman from the restaurant, the one he had touched like I wasn't at home waiting for him. Her name was Sophia, and she was everywhere. His new world, his new life, his new love. I felt like I was watching my own death from the outside. A week after Liam left, I received a letter. It was from the bank. The first payment on the $100,000 loan was overdue. I stared at the numbers, my hands shaking. This isn't happening. I called Liam, straight to voicemail. I texted him. No response. I tried again, and again. Blocked. Panic spread through my body. I had never been alone in this debt. Liam had promised we would pay it off together. His business was supposed to fix everything, but he was gone. And the debt, it was only mine. I worked extra shifts, cut every expense, but it wasn't enough. One morning, there was a knock on my door. A man in a suit handed me an envelope. "Miss Carter, this is your final warning. You have 7 days to vacate the premises." I blinked. Wait, what? I paid rent. The man shook his head. The last 3 months' payments bounced. That's impossible. Then it hit me. Liam had set up automatic payments from our joint account, the account he had drained before he left. I was drowning, and he had taken the last life vest before jumping ship. I had no choice. I had to ask for help. I reached out to friends. Most of them had disappeared along with Liam. I swallowed my pride and called my mother. She picked up. "Kate?" The second I heard her voice, I broke down. "Mom, I need help." Silence, then a sigh. "I told you, sweetheart. I wanted her to be wrong. She wasn't. I can send you some money to get home, but I can't fix this for you." I was 28 years old, bankrupt, and begging my mother like a child. But she was right. No one could save me but myself. The last night in my apartment, I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes of everything I had left. It wasn't much. Most of it had been sold: furniture, electronics, jewelry, anything to buy more time. I was alone in an empty apartment. I thought about Liam. I thought about the years I had spent loving him, building him, sacrificing for him. I thought about what was left of me now. Nothing. That night, I packed a single suitcase. I slept in my car, and for the first time in my life, I truly understood what it meant to be disposable. I kept my phone off for days. I couldn't bear to look at the bank notifications, the overdue bills, the world moving on without me. Then, out of habit, I turned it on. And I saw it. Liam and Sophia's engagement announcement. A sparkling diamond ring. A romantic caption: "Found the love of my life. Can't wait to spend forever with you." I stared at the screen. The love of his life, the woman he had left me for. I scrolled through the comments, my fingers numb. Then I saw something that made me stop breathing. "That ring is gorgeous. Where did you get it?" Sophia's reply: "Custom made." He really went all out. He said, "Only the best for my future wife." A fresh wave of nausea hit me. I knew that ring. I had seen the receipt for it. I had paid for it. The engagement ring, the luxury honeymoon, the extravagant gifts, everything he was giving her, he had stolen from me. My vision blurred. My chest ached. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone, to erase myself from existence the way he had erased me. But then, somewhere deep inside, something else started to rise. A slow, quiet rage. I had lost everything, but I was still alive, and one day, Liam would regret this. He didn't know it yet, but I was coming back. The night I lost my apartment, I sat in my car for hours, staring at the dashboard. I told myself I just needed a plan. A few nights in my car, then I'd figure something out. That's what I told myself. But plans don't mean much when you have nothing left. My entire life was stuffed into a single suitcase in the back seat. Everything else? Gone. Sold, thrown out, or left behind. I parked behind a gas station, turned off my phone to avoid looking at my bank balance, and tried to sleep. But sleep doesn't come easy when your entire world has collapsed. I had never felt this kind of exhaustion before. The kind that wasn't just physical, but deep, bone-crushing, soul-draining. The kind that made even breathing feel heavy. And for the first time in my life, I wondered, is this it? People think being broke just means having no money. It's more than that. It's the constant fear of checking your bank account. It's the humiliation of pretending you're fine while your stomach growls in a silent office. It's the shame of knowing that even if you worked every single hour of the day, it still wouldn't be enough. My marketing job paid just enough to keep the debt collectors at bay, but not enough to find a new place. Not enough to breathe. So I did what I had to do. I started looking for side gigs, anything that paid. And that's how I found myself scrubbing floors at night, working in an office by day, and walking dogs on weekends. I showered in the office bathroom. I kept dry shampoo and a spare blouse in my desk drawer. I stopped eating lunch, stopped eating, period. Every paycheck went straight into my debt. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. I was drowning. And the worst part, no one knew. I walked into work every morning in my cheap blazer, smiled at my coworkers, made small talk over coffee. Because if they knew the truth, they'd fire me in a second. I had no safety net, no family to fall back on, no friends left to ask for help. I was completely, utterly alone. One night after my second job, I dragged myself to my car, half asleep on my feet. I turned the key. Nothing. I tried again. Silence. The battery was dead. I gripped the steering wheel, fighting back the panic clawing at my throat. I had $14.72 in my bank account. I had no one to call. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. I slammed my fists against the wheel, shaking, screaming in frustration. I gave him everything. My voice echoed in the empty parking lot. I had built his dream, paid for his life, given up my own future to make sure he could have his. And now, I was starving, alone, and crying in a parking lot while he was off planning his wedding. I buried my face in my hands. I had never felt this broken before. The next morning at work, my boss, Mason Reed, pulled me aside. "You look like hell." I forced a smile. "Rough night." He frowned. "When was the last time you ate?" I hesitated. And just like that, the lie shattered. Mason didn't ask questions. He just handed me his lunch and told me to eat. I devoured it so fast, I barely tasted it. "Jesus," he muttered. "How bad is it?" I swallowed my pride and told him the truth. Not everything, but enough. The eviction, the debt, the second jobs. To my shock, he didn't look at me with pity. He looked furious. "That bastard did this to you, didn't he?" I didn't answer, but Mason already knew. A few weeks later, Mason knocked on my desk. "The company needs a new executive assistant." I blinked. So it pays nearly double what you're making now." My heart pounded. "But I don't have the experience." Mason scoffed. "Didn't you run that guy's life for years? You did the work, he took the credit. Apply for the job." I hesitated. I had spent so long feeling like nothing, like I wasn't capable of success without Liam. But Mason was right. I had done the work, I had the skills, so I applied, and I got it. A week later, I signed a new contract. For the first time in months, I could afford a real place to live. For the first time in months, I felt human again. I was still in debt, still haunted by what I had lost, but for the first time, I felt like I was winning something back. And then, just when I started breathing again, I saw the headline. One night, scrolling through the internet, I froze. Liam Carter's company under investigation for fraud. I stared at the screen, heartbeat steady. The investors who once worshipped him had turned on him. His empire, built on lies, and now it was collapsing. I thought I would feel happy. I didn't. I felt nothing. People think revenge is about power, about getting even. But the truth is, when you've lost everything, you don't have time for revenge. I was too busy trying to survive. Too busy. Waking up before dawn to get to work. Too busy making sure my bills were paid on time. Too busy trying to rebuild the life that had been shattered. So when the news about Liam's downfall broke, I didn't feel anything. No excitement, no satisfaction, no sense of justice. I was too tired to care. It had been nearly 3 years since Liam left me with nothing. And now, he was the one losing everything. I overheard my coworkers whispering about it in the break room. "Did you see the article about Carter Innovations?" "Yeah, fraud allegations. The investors are pulling out. I heard they might go bankrupt." I kept my head down, focused on my work. Let them talk. Let the world tear him apart. It had nothing to do with me anymore. A few nights later, as I sat in my tiny apartment, one I had fought so hard to afford, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to check. "Liam." I stared at the screen. For a long time, I had imagined what this moment would feel like. Would he beg for forgiveness? Would he pretend nothing happened? Would I finally get the closure I had wanted for so long? But now, with my phone glowing in the dim light, I felt nothing. I let it ring, and then I blocked the number. Let him deal with his own mess. I didn't follow his downfall. I didn't read the articles, didn't stalk his social media, didn't look for updates. But every now and then I'd overhear something. His company was sinking. The fraud allegations were stacking up. Investors were suing. Sophia, she left him the moment his money stopped flowing. And now, Liam Carter, the man who once thought he was untouchable, was completely alone. The irony wasn't lost on me. He had left me with nothing once. Now, he had nothing. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. It happened months later. I had just finished a long shift, exhausted, dragging myself out of the office, when I saw him. Liam, standing near the entrance, hands shoved into his pockets. He looked different. Not the polished, confident man I once knew. His suit was slightly wrinkled. His hair wasn't as perfectly styled. For the first time, he looked small. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he gave a weak, almost embarrassed smile. "Hey, Kate," I sighed, too tired for this. "What do you want, Liam?" He hesitated. "Can we talk?" I considered it, but then I shook my head. "I don't see the point." He swallowed, looking down. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I studied him. Maybe once I would have wanted this. Would have wanted him to stand here, looking broken, admitting he was wrong. But now, I just wanted to go home. "Okay," I said simply. Then I walked past him. Because this wasn't my problem anymore. That was the last time I saw Liam. I didn't know where he ended up. Maybe he recovered. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he learned something. Maybe he didn't. It wasn't my concern, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I had a life to live. And I was finally free to live it.